You're tuned to Radio Caroline on 199, your all-day music station.
Don't adjust your set. This is still the BBC, but it's time for a bit of nostalgia now as we remember what music radio in Britain sounded like 50 years ago.
Hello and happy Easter to all of you. This is Christopher Moore with the first record program on Radio Caroline. The first record is by
Yes, it was on this day in 1964 that Radio Caroline turned on its transmitters and started broadcasting, not from London, but from a converted ship anchored off the east coast of England. Why? Well, the BBC had something of a monopoly over broadcasting at the time, and add to that the tight grip exerted by the record companies on what could and couldn't be played. But of course, in international waters, none of that mattered, and so pirate radio was born. Well, one of the DJs on board Radio Caroline went on to become a newsreader here at the BBC. He's John Jason, and he's been telling me from his home in France how much fun he had on board.
It was absolutely fantastic. We had an incredible lineup, which is really one of the reasons it was so successful, apart from the music as well, which of course was wonderful, and the freedom of choice we had, which you just don't get these days. We had people like Andy Archer, Mickey Mercer, who was our cook, Dick Palmer, who was the captain, who used to do a program called Dick Palmer's Night Trip. We got a really good mix of people. It was one of those sort of situations where everything gelled, and add to that the luxury of being able to go down to the Radio Caroline studio, where you got racks and racks of the best LPs, all the albums you can think of. You couldn't really fail. You just had plenty of time on board, obviously, to go down there, search out your favourites, a bit of Pink Floyd, a bit of Jimi Hendrix, a bit of Marvin Gaye, and then you go up with your stack of records and you could just make it up as you went along. That's really what made it so exciting. It was wonderful.
And how did it work in terms of the amount of time you spent on board? A week or two on board and then a week or two on shore?
It was meant to be like that originally. I think we did it about 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Then it went up to sort of 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off. Because you were very dependent on the weather and someone coming to pick you up, obviously, because you were otherwise stranded on the high seas, which was fine if you had plenty of supplies, but obviously these dwindled with time. And so the longest time I think I stayed on was about 8 weeks. We just got caught out in really bad weather. By then the food would have run out. In fact, I remember one stage, I think we still had some rice left, but we augmented that with mackerel, which we fished for over the side. There was so much of it. I've never enjoyed mackerel since.
Really, don't touch mackerel. And presumably you weren't on air for many hours a day. What did you do with your downtime? Would just listen to more music, plan the shows?
We used to very much enjoy listening to each other's music or rushing into the little studios and sort of contributing to it a little bit. We used to spend a lot of time drinking beer, smoking a lot. And of course, we were on sometimes at least twice a day for 3 hours. So, you did have to put in a bit of prep. But I mean, it was really very, very exciting, this mix of sea, music and camaraderie. You just don't get that anywhere.
And so what impact do you think the Radio Caroline had on popular culture in Britain? Do you think it had a lasting effect?
Well, I mean, as far as the 60s go, of course, they did, because they're the ones who sort of brought the advent of pop radio. But we just carried that on, I like to think, because we played a lot of album music that really wasn't played elsewhere. So, yes, I think, for example, the Doobies became very big with us playing them. Judging by the reaction in the letters that we got from our listeners, they loved it. And, of course, because it was a little bit off the wall, some of it.
Caroline, the sound of the nation!
Wonderful stuff. Radio Caroline, 50 years old today. John Jason taking us through his memories.